Welcome back to Living in Mexico. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, it happened a week ago. Last Sunday, Mexico voted and voted in unconditional terms, calling out for Claudia Sheinbaum to be the next president of Mexico. To give us an analysis. In fact, I was with him the night we were both at a TV station doing live analysis of what was happening that Sunday. Joining us is political analyst Federico Berrueto. Federico, I think I have to say for myself and everybody else who was at the table, we were, I wouldn't say we were in shock, but it was very surprising. Welcome to the show. Just put into context what happened last Sunday.
Yes. Hi, Ana Maria. It's been a pleasure to be with you. It's a pleasure to be with you. I have to tell you this. What happened in the last Sunday, the election of Sunday, it was a landslide in the result. The triumph of the success of Morena and Claudia Sheinbaum and Lopez Obrador really is overwhelming. And it's very, very worrisome. Really, at least I'm very, very worried about it. Why? Because the winner in the Mexican system, the winner takes all.
Yeah.
Why it is so? Because not only have you have the triumph of Claudia or Morena, they also won the Congress. And in such terms that they have a very strong majority, there is no chance for the opposition to be in a situation to limit the presidential power. And also, you can see it at the local level. So when I said the winner takes it all, is because there is an authoritarian agenda, legislative agenda, put forward for Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador. And it is authoritarian because it undermines all the democratic principles. For instance, fair and reliable elections. If you go ahead with the electoral reform that Andrés Manuel is putting forward, you are not going to have fair elections in Mexico anymore.
Right.
And also, speaking about the judiciary power, the Supreme Court, well, if you go along the proposal of Presidente López Obrador, you are not going to have an independent court and independent judicial power. And this is very important because for instance, the investors, why the peso was devaluated in these days? It is not for economic reasons, rather political one. Why? Because investors see that if the judicial reform goes ahead, you don't have certainty of your rights, property rights. Why? Because, well, the government is going to do whatever the government wants because you don't have a judicial system that protects human rights, property rights, any sort of rights. And also, if you go ahead with the disappearance of the organs, the institutions that are that were created by the Constitution or in the Constitution in order to limit presidential power, well, you are not going to have rule of law. You are not going to have transparency. You are not going to have even rights of the people of, how can I tell you? The secret that you have as the right of secrecy of
Secrecy or privacy, the privacy rights.
yeah. And so if you see what the Andres Manuel is proposing in the constitutional reform, it is an authoritarian reform. And really, we are very worried because he won, Morena won, the overwhelming majority in the Congress. They can do whatever they want. And so the doubt is what's going on with Claudia. If Claudia, as coming president, she is going along with the same lines of Andrés Manuel López Obrador. We know that López Obrador wants his reform, and he is saying at least in September, at least the judiciary reform is going to go along to be approved, and that's the reason the peso was under pressure, because investors said there is no, in a democracy, you cannot have a judiciary power in the hands of the government or the political party, the ruling political party.
So we have in September, the new Congress initiates, and the fear is that President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who's still president, Claudia Sheinbaum is sworn in on October 1st. He has a month to be able to request that the new Congress approve all these constitutional reforms. And since they may or may not have a supermajority, clearly they could get this package approved. So do you think Claudia Sheinbaum and her team and people around her who have been watching this chain of events, of this pressure of the international markets and the devaluation of the peso, do you think she will be able to convince current President Manuel López Obrador to put off his intentions of seeking these reforms?
I don't know. It's very difficult because the personality of López Obrador is a very stubborn person, a politician. And I don't think it's very difficult that he's going to change. Even today, he said that that reform was going to be approved in September. However, Claudia said that the project has to be discussed and consulted. Even she spoke about the open parliament. Open parliament is a process of a formal process of let's say, to ask all the people what they think about the reform. And if that takes place, it means that there is not going to be a reform in September. But you never know because López Obrador has the control of the Congress, not Claudia. Perhaps you are going to see the first clash. I'm not very sure about that. But right now, what you can see is that there are very different perspectives from Claudia's team, even Claudia, and López Obrador.
Wow. So it really depends on how much she agrees with President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and his view in terms of these, which have been these traditional.
Excuse me, Ana Maria, it's not only that you agree about with the content of the reform. I think Claudia agrees with López Obrador. What she is saying or seeing, sorry, what she is thinking is that if that reform is approved in September, you are going to have an economic problem. And López Obrador was very, very successful president. The results were a disaster. But I mean, he could go ahead all the 6 years because never has a problem, just in the pandemic, but it's
that was a worldwide problem.
Yeah. But he never had he was very cautious in the sense that to care about investors and policies that didn't destabilize the macroeconomic principles. So what Claudia, I think perhaps she agrees with Lopez Obrador, but she says we cannot do it in September. We have to take more time and do it with time and to be more careful about that. And Lopez Obrador doesn't care about it.
It seems that he doesn't. I mean, the worst thing that could happen to the first woman president to start out her administration with an economic and financial crisis. Any one last question because we're running out of time. Any last comments about possible cabinet members? We know that the current Secretary of Hacienda, Ramirez de la O, is going to be staying on.
Well, I think Claudia has the chance to have a very good cabinet, but mostly a different way to work with the cabinet. Why? Because Lopez Obrador didn't work with his cabinet. The whole government depended on him. And I think with Claudia is going to be different. But from all the nominees, I think what is the most important is who is going to be in charge of the security, the minister responsible of security. And if the nominee is Garcia Harfuch, I think is, let's say, a different perspective in the sense that Claudia is not going to depend on the military in order to face the problems of security, but rather a civilian perspective, very different from Lopez Obrador. If she nominates Garcia Harfuch as the responsible of security.
Federico Berrueto, my friend, we're gonna have to be in touch and conversing a lot because there's still a lot of question marks as to what the new administration is going to look like and what's going to be her priorities. But I really appreciate you joining us here on Living in Mexico. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ana Maria.
Thank you. Federico Berrueto, a political analyst. I always enjoy talking to him. We're going to go to commercial break. I'm Ana Maria Salazar, and you're watching and listening to Living in Mexico. Don't go away. I'll be right back.